Thank you, everyone. And wow, it's not about me. It's about those victims we need to rescue. It's about the survivors that I see here in front of me who have been valiantly, courageously fighting the good fight in the trenches. Teresa Flores, Marlene Person, thank you. Because with this crime comes a whole lot of victimization. And victimization that's associated with prostitution. And as I had my first State House Human Trafficking Awareness Day, a woman stood up at the end who really, I think, put it in the right perspective. She said, you know, most people hear prostitution is the oldest profession in the world. She said, no, it is the oldest oppression in the world. And when you think about that crime and when you think about that type of shame and stigma, you're going to have enslaved and trapped victims all over the world. And it's happening in our own backyard. In fact, when we reach out to the other states that are applying their safe harbor law, and we're talking across state, boundaries, no one's really getting it right. But in Connecticut, when they prepared for their safe harbor law for international victims, their first year they discovered 60 domestic victims, and they didn't know where to start to help them. So that gives you an indication of how we today, through the help and support and passion of many, many people and the leaders of the State House, when I wrote letters and asked them to sit down with me and talk about this, and let's not have another human trafficking lame duck bill. My goal was to get it done before lame duck, before politics really infused emotions and regret. I felt that our children and those victims deserved better. And I had great response from the leaders, and I'm very thankful for the response that I got, especially from the governor and even AG DeWine, who immediately said he was going to continue the TIPS Commission. And thank you for that leadership. People who are passionate on the ground, I'm just maybe the tip of the spear, but there are thousands of people who are working in their backyards to clean it up, understanding it, trying to understand the scope of the problem in Ohio, but make the recommendations. And where I come from, in Toledo, we're not known in a very good way with human trafficking in this nation. We're 4th or 5th in the nation of recruiting underage girls for sex exploitation. When you think about the per capita of our city, we're #1 in the nation. Unacceptable. But I also like to say we're #1 in solving this really terrible crime. We're #1 in saying through juvenile court system, our judges are saying we are not going to arrest the victims. We are not going to arrest the victims. So they already have a safe harbor in Lucas County. They're already working with children's services and law enforcement. So we're forging forward the solution, but there are many, many gaps in the services that need to be done right now for them. So we're going to continue to work on that problem. And I applaud the governor for making it a priority to tackle a problem that seems overwhelming and seems bigger than all of us. And it's amazing to me that we have the smartest people in Ohio in the best places to solve problems for people in Ohio that can't figure this out. We just can't figure it out. So responding appropriately is the key, and that's what I really focus on, is that victim-centered approach to combating human trafficking, and it's a human rights issue of our time. And as you've heard, it's referred to as modern-day slavery. And it's really, really tough work. So thank you for all who are getting this done. But it's never going to be a quick fix. We'll always be reviewing, measuring how we're doing. There's no victim that is exactly like the next victim. And I have some examples. We have a Cleveland case where there was a 16-year-old sold for $300 in Starbucks by a man who thought he was selling her to a madame. He promised the madame more business in the future. In Toledo, 2 young girls were abducted on their way to Wendy's. They were beaten and forced to prostitute themselves. In Columbus, a sting broke up the operation of a brothel. The brothel was being run via the internet, and some of the women who were involved were minors. Human trafficking involves various types of exploitation and trauma. So the treatment and the appropriate response isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all. Additionally, the criminal trials that are associated with the victims are times of incredible trauma and mental anguish. The FBI often talk about the minors they rescued, but by the time they prepare their case and they go to trial, they're adults and they lack services and they're falling through the cracks. Some of them have even been killed. If they don't get the right services right away, they're going to be back on the streets, they're going to be killed. In many of the minor victims of trafficking, 77% of them end up staying in adult prostitution. Many of our adult prostitutes were victims as children. What are we doing about them? So this is really a long-term view of how we're going to have an appropriate response. And this executive order is a companion to, and what Governor Kasich has said, to the implementation of the House Bill 262, my own anti-human trafficking bill that will soon be ready for us to move forward. And working with the governor's office in this legislation is essential for addressing the real and serious problems of human trafficking. We can stop modern-day slavery. What he's doing with the government services that are there, in many of these services, the victims they already qualify for, but we are not coordinating them as a human trafficking victim. This is a significant step forward, and it's very historical for Ohio, so I give you a lot of credit. We will be working very closely with the TIPS Commission and the task force to make sure we're getting the immediate help now. And I believe that we're sending the right message right now to those victims. Guess what? You can call the 888-3737-888 hotline number that goes to Polaris, Washington, D.C. They will get a hold of law enforcement here in Ohio, and we can immediately rescue you. We will not only rescue you, we will get you the services that you need. And we're here to help. I think that's the greatest message that we have. And for AG DeWine to say, if you see something suspicious, he has a link on his website that you can go through and learn what human trafficking looks like. Go through the different paces. And at the end of the day, you're going to be educated, and you will be an abolitionist too. So with that, I'm so grateful for the leadership, because it's not about Democrat or Republican. It's about saving our children from prostitution. We're going to stop prostituting our children today, and we're going to rescue them today. So as I